To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more Business Talk.
Well, today we are talking, this is Michelle and I, when we have our firm, I guess we should say Take Action Business Coaching is our firm here locally in Columbus, helping business owners, helping managers and leaders grow, and we do it on a continual basis. So you ever go to a training class and you say, I love it, I want to do everything, and then you go right back to your work and you go back to your old habits.
Absolutely.
So as a coach, we go in and we change the habits so that there's sustainability for any program.
Yeah, we help people to make a plan, stick to the plan, and adjust as we need to along the way.
I love it. I love it. So right before the break, Michelle, you were talking a little bit about our process of a 360. So pick us up where you left off there.
Yeah. So I went in and kind of asked the every team member that was on this in this company, from the lowest to the highest, the longest to the shortest.
Everybody has a voice
in between. Everybody has a voice, and kind of asked them, what are you happy here? Why, what do you like about being here? Because there has to be something good, right? Or why are you here? Where are some areas that we could grow that we need to work on? And what is something that you're extremely frustrated with that you think needs to change? So
great. And keep in mind, as Michelle did this with the team, we do this. So if you're interested in doing something like this for your company, we come in and we can do the same thing. Yeah. And you can do anonymous surveys that can be online where people fill it out, or do a Survey Monkey. Yeah. What you're talking about is where we really gather some really interesting perspective on a one-on-one conversation.
Right.
And then we document it all.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these are things that people are willing more to share to us because we do make it a trusted environment where, they know that it can be kept anonymous, that, the things they tell us are going to be used, but we don't necessarily have to say who it came from.
Right.
And also, having that third party, somebody outside of the company, they feel less threatened by, hurting somebody's feelings, or that there's going to be repercussions for something that they said. So it's a really neat experience to get more out of your team. So I sat down with this team, met with every single person, and really had some great eye-opening, things. And certainly there's certain things that came up that only one or two people, felt. But then there was a lot of things that were repeated over and over and over again.
So we look for patterns.
Exactly.
So what we're looking at, we have had one person come in and they're like, I can't wait that they have a vendetta against somebody or the company, and they spew it all out. Yeah. And sometimes they're the only person that thinks that way. When we see that, that's not a pattern. That's Absolutely. An angry person, and probably a person that needs to be what we call a alumni to your company.
Alumni to the company, yes. We like
so go ahead and talk a little bit about more what you found. Okay.
So, a lot did come down to the communication factor and communicating from the leadership. Sometimes the leadership was making decisions and not really communicating that well with the team.
Right.
They would just kind of post a note somewhere, or they would just change it and kind of let the word of mouth let people know what was happening. Maybe
they'll find out.
Right.
I've had companies that go, everybody will see it happen.
Right.
And they don't get to know ahead of time. It's very frustrating for a team. Okay,
this
is good.
Yeah. And sometimes it wasn't being shared. There's kind of the top leaders and then the middle leaders and then down, on down the pike. And sometimes it wasn't shared with the middle management before the rest of the team knew. So they weren't able to, help with that passing down. There's also a lot of issues between the different generations. So certainly the millennials versus the Gen Xers versus, the baby boomers. I mean, they have the whole gamut.
So what was that? Explain okay, so one was, so it sounds like we said, we're going to cover some areas. Communication's what we're covering right now. Under communication, I'm seeing a couple things.
Sure.
One is, you said they didn't understand the change. A second thing is now the way they're communicating isn't to support each person's generation.
Right.
Okay, so tell us what was happening, because I bet you some listeners here listening are like, okay, this happens in my company.
Yeah.
So what were you seeing?
Yeah. So, the difference between, the people that have been in the work environment for so long, whether it's at this location or somewhere else, are used to, in their mind, a different work mindset. You're there to work and you hit the grind and you work until your, fingers fall off and you don't stop. Versus, the younger generation in what they were seeing or saying, what the older generation were saying, was that they were there just to socialize, that they didn't really want to work, and they wanted to just enjoy the day and, shouldn't have to, work too hard or anything like that. And then on the flip side, the younger generation felt that the older generation wanted nothing to do with change, that they weren't open to new ideas and new change, and didn't want to try anything new or use any of the new technologies. Whereas, again, the older generation then said that the youngers always wanted change, were constantly pushing change, and wouldn't be open to the fact that they have the experience and understand how things should go, or, seeing the ways to work.
So, Michelle, as a coach, you get in this situation, and that's why you bring in a coach, because I would challenge any owner or any company. You don't have to be an owner, be a manager. Right. Bring us in, and I wonder what your team would be saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be interesting, because now here's a case study. And again, this is Business Talk with Michelle and Peg, and we are talking about the different things that a company and managers need to work on. And we're talking about communication right now. So we've just figured out that we've done a 360 interview. You're finding out that there's a communication issue, which, by the way, we see that everywhere, no matter how good. All the time, it's usually the number one thing.
Yes.
That's why we're talking about it.
Right.
So now Michelle has a generation gap communication issue.
Yes.
So what has been the strategy to fix this? Because this happened a while ago. So I know you've been working on it.
Yeah. So we've been talking, about having a team day where we're really going to get into the generations and talk about, as far as stereotypes, what the different generations are like. But also, amazingly enough, one of the baby boomers had brought me an article about millennials that she had shared with the leadership, and it never really got shared. And so, I pushed the leadership to share that article, but also look for other articles about all the different generations before we have that training, so that we can understand each other in that way better. But I also really encouraged each person as an individual, what could you do to be the proponent for change here? What could you do by reaching across those lines? It's kind of like the Republicans versus the Democrats right now, right?
Yes.
Who's going to be that person that reaches across the line and extends that olive branch to try to make some compromise, because if we all just kind of stand there having our temper tantrum and not wanting to see somebody else's perspective. I've also talked to not only the leaders, but the rest of the team about the art of listening. Because it's one of the biggest things that we have lost within communication is listening to each other. Not just hearing, but listening.
I like it.
And trying to take a minute and understand, so if somebody comes to me as a leader with a problem, I'm going to hear them out. I might ask them some follow-up questions to try to, get to more in-depth about, what their perspective is and what they're thinking. But even if I know the answer is no, or that their idea might not make sense for what we want to do, I want to give them the respect to take the time to think it through, to let them know,
open mind.
I'm going to stay open to this. I'm going to talk to some other people. I'm going to think about it, and I'll get back to you with my answer. Or if I know the answer right away is absolutely no, but I know the reasoning behind it, then I might turn to them right then and say it. But I do need to give them their voice. I need to let them be heard and understand where it is that they're coming from, and let them understand where it is that the decision is coming from.
So what we're talking about is looking at a company, and I'm going to regroup and say, okay, so Michelle goes into a company, which is common. What we'll do is interview to get perspective of where we are. We see that one of the issues is communication. So what I'm hearing you say is you did 3 strategies. Number one, and no one's in order, one's not more important than the other, but one of the strategies was education.
Yep.
First thing you did is say, I need to educate them on what tendencies we have by generation, which is one of the things we do, to seek to understand.
Right.
So education is critical a lot of times.
Yes.
And then the second thing you said is a team alignment day.
Yep.
Getting and I'm going to go back to that team alignment day and have you describe it.
Yep.
And then the third strategy was listening.
Yep.
So what you did is you said, this is happening. This is what we're going to work on, and then this is how we're going to work on it. That's what coaching's all about. This is explaining really a coaching process.
Right.
So going back into the generations, it was education. You said through articles, also the team alignment day. So describe the team alignment day and what you're going to do there.
So we do lots of different team alignment days, and it just kind of depends on each company and where they're at. But a lot of time it's, setting rules for the game on how we're going to treat each other within playing and working together. And we also, try to come up with our own goals. We all try to talk the same language, learn some fun things that we can, words or verbiage that we can say to reduce a stressful moment or to be able to confront each other without being aggressive about it, different things like that. In this case, because there is such a divide, not only amongst the generations of the world,
right.
But also they have people that have been there, 20, 30 years, as well as people who've been there less than 5 years. So there's also that difference, not only in age, but also in longevity within that company. So this team day is really going to be focused, A, on learning more about the generations,
yes.
B, focusing a lot on communication, but C, having very specific groups working together in order to play games and to learn how to work together. But it's going to, sometimes we just kind of randomly pick as we're within a group, everybody count off by threes and all the ones go over here, twos over here.
Right.
But this is going to be a more, planned out, so that we have.
Because we need Sarah working with Jamie.
Exactly.
I gotcha.
So we have a baby boomer working with a millennial and a person that's been there 25 years working with somebody who's been there 3 years. And, not having them play games together to learn how to work as a team together, but also having them come up with solutions to some of the problems that we've encountered, making them come up with ideas, making them have to share the workload in fixing this, what resolutions can we come up with, again, by talking, by listening, by being open and sharing with each other, but also playing together, learning that these people, can be fun. The other side of it is getting to know each other better as people.
That's good.
Sometimes in the work environment, we know what people's work personality is, but if we don't take the time to get to know them, we may not know the personal struggles that they might be going through or the happiness, the wins in their lives that they're going through right now. So also getting them to know each other outside of being coworkers,
So here's a question, Michelle, for our listeners, is when was the last time you got your team together to do this team alignment? And like you just said, the alignment can have different elements depending on what your team needs.
Absolutely.
And prior to doing the alignment, we would do an interview with some of your team to gather it.
Right.
But what would you say, Michelle, how often should a team alignment take place with a company?
I would say minimally once a year.
Minimal, yes. In some cases, twice.
Right, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, it just depends on the team. And, some can be longer than others. A lot of them we do for an entire day. But maybe if they're going to do it more frequently, it could be every quarter, short session every quarter or something. It's certainly different ways to look at it depending on how the company's run.
Well, exactly. So when we return from this break, we're going to dive into the challenges. We talked about communication, but we also talked about leadership, culture. And when we return, we'll dive into those areas.
Sounds good.
This is Business Talk. Your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed are those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given is not intended to replace that of your business advisor. Now, let's get down to talking about your business, your success. This is Business Talk.
Well, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Peg. How are you?
I'm good. And it's Michelle and Peg today. No Pete today.
No Pete. We sent him away.
We sent him all the way to Thailand.
Yes.
We sent him all the way to
That's how far. We needed a break, a Pete break. No, we love you, Pete. Come back.
Love Pete. Pete and his son, Ben, went to Thailand just to enjoy the food, the culture. And so Michelle and I get to be your learning coaches for today.
Yes. And we're very excited about it.
Explain a little bit about what coaching is, Michelle.
So coaching is where we come in and work with businesses as a whole, or sometimes with executives or particular people. And we'd like to kind of refer to it as the personal trainers for business, because, you go to your personal trainer because you want to set goals and you have goals that you want, but you need somebody to hold you accountable and kind of keep you on track. So we do that as far as coaches for your business or your executives to train them to get to the goals that they want to get at. It's about your business. It's about your goals and where you want to get. But we we help you to get there, holding you accountable, teaching you some new ways and methods that you might not have known before.
Yes.
Going, pushing all kinds of learning, because learning should never stop. If you're not
Right,
learning, you're
right.
dying. So we, are constantly feeding new methods of learning for ourselves, but also for our customers and our clients, and getting them to where they need to be.
And you know what's interesting? You said learning. So as coaching, like you said, the number one thing is how quickly can you learn or relearn things. And it was interesting because we were with a client. Now, Don, our other coach, was with a client the other day. And it was interesting because he said, I came to one of your workshops and it seems like you have this is basic business. I know everything. And obviously, and I said, it's not a matter of teaching you for the first time. It's about teaching you. And then what's the application to your situation? Are you applying these principles?
Right.
So it's both. It's the education and application and relearning.
Right. Yeah.
So I like that.
Yeah. And those are two dangerous words that we talk about, is the I know, right? Because when you say the words I know, it shuts down your brain from learning, because you think that you know everything, and none of us know everything. We all have something that we can learn from somebody's different perspective. You and I can hear the same thing being taught by the same person and take it to mean two very different things. It's because how open are we to learning what is our own life and business experience brought to the table that made us see it in a different way, and learning from each other, going to seminars and listening to podcasts and reading books at the same time with somebody else. It's interesting what you can learn from each other by taking in those experiences.
It was interesting. I was with my client, Bill, Michelle Bill, and I just love Bill because he's just ever wanting to. He's a super successful company running, but he constantly is looking to ever improve. And he goes, I reread this one book called The Answer. Ironically, we're on The Answer. It's a book by John Assaraf, and it's a great book. And he goes, and when I reread it, I was like 5 years later than from the first time. But the place I'm in right now is different than the place I was in 5 years ago when I read it.
Which is good.
Yeah, it means
stay in the same
we're
place.
ever evolving. And when we read things and absorb things at different points in our lives, we take different pieces away.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that. Absolutely. So that's coaching. And Michelle has been with us, oh my gosh, I want to say 7 years.
Yeah.
We've been, coaching, and I've been 12 years.
Right.
Unbelievable. It goes by so fast.
It does, yeah. And I have the lucky experience. I was actually one of your clients originally. Yeah. And then you converted me over to the coaching world, and it's been a great experience. So, I have both sides of things to see how it is to be coached and how it is to be the coach. So, it's all different perspectives, all different learnings, and you never stop growing.
I love it. And by the way, now that Michelle has said that, as a firm, so there's Michelle and Pete and Don and I, we are looking for more coaches. We want to add on one more coach. So if you are interested in coaching, you want to give us a call at 614-306-7922, because we're always looking to add one more coaches.
Absolutely. And if you have, it's great to have all kinds of different experiences and backgrounds. I have come from the marketing and advertising world, as well as veterinary medicine world, running a business there. And Peg, you were from radio sales and marketing, and running major events and programs. The Pete comes from a chemical engineering background.
Manufacturing and distribution.
Yep. And then Dawn came from the teaching world, but also running unions and doing all kinds of things on that side. So it really doesn't matter what your background is.
That's a good point.
If you have experience working with people in business, with the community and job, it definitely helps to have that experience in, so that you can teach others your own perspective.
Absolutely. So the topic today, thank you for that, Michelle. Okay, so for the topic today, so as Michelle and I were preparing for the show, we were like, what is it? The goal of the show, of Business Talk, is that you would listen to this and take a few nuggets and apply it to your life.
Right.
And from that, you will grow, because that's our goal, right?
Yep.
So we decided, okay, if we look at all the companies that we've been coaching, what are the challenges that these companies are running into, the biggest challenges right now? And we thought we would dive into each category.
Absolutely.
So what did we come up with, Michelle?
Well, the four that we kind of talked about, and all kind of relating to people, amazingly enough, because we do find that people seem to be the driving issues within business when we're running into struggles. So we talked about hiring,
Yes.
And I'll even throw in hiring and firing.
I like that. Hiring and firing people. Okay, so that's one area we'll dive into in this show today. Okay.
Absolutely. Then the culture of the team. Communication, not only to team members within each other, but also to our customers outside of the group that we are in. And then all comes down to as well the leadership and how the leadership is dealing with the team and communicating to everybody that's going on, what needs to be done.
Love it. So I guess the show would be called The Challenges We Face Every Day.
Yep.
And then as we dive in, I'm just going to repeat them. It's and not in this order, but I remember leadership because you just said that.
Yeah.
So it's leadership, it's hiring, and then we're going to also talk a little bit about firing. Boy, this is a lot of meat and potatoes here.
Yeah.
And then communication, which always comes up, doesn't it?
Yep.
And then
the culture.
The culture overall, which is I even want to start with that a little bit, but
sure.
I do want to tell you. So Michelle and Pete and I were with a bunch of business owners the other day, last week, if you remember.
Yeah.
And it was happenstance how we all met. And we were all at the Wine Bistro having a drink.
Yeah.
And as we were in this room, I said, well, gosh, we have all these brilliant minds. I just want to have everybody sit down for a second and say, what was your biggest challenge for the week?
Yeah.
And each one was a company manager or president or owner.
Right.
And wasn't it interesting? You want to tell everybody what they said that week, just that week.
Just that week, it was all people related. So for some people, it was their team. For some people, it was their customers. For some people, it was their co-leaders. It was kind of.
We had two people that had to fire people.
Oh, that's right. Yep, 2 people had to fire, and then we also had some personal issues. People that were having some of their own, people issues outside in their friend world or personal world. So it's just interesting. You can try to be a hermit in your office and stay away from people all that you need to, but if you are really in almost any business,
right,
you need to talk to somebody at some point, interact with somebody at some point. Certain people have more than others, but it really is so important that you have strong relationships and ways to deal with conflict when you are in any business.
It is interesting. So okay, this gives me, so Michelle recently, one of the things that we do is we have many clients that we work with and have worked with. And again, our goal is to help the team and the individuals grow so that we're more profitable. We make money. We make companies money by creating a great culture and leadership and hiring right, firing when you should, and communicating, which is our areas. So tell us a little bit about the process that you went through recently with a team.
Sure.
And explain what happened there.
Yeah. Well, I have this great company that I work with, and they have been in business since the 1940s, different owners over time, but this company has been around for a very long time. And I've been working with them for about a year, and we had gone through what we kind of thought was a written 360, where we had all the team members do an anonymous questionnaire, answering all kinds of questions, and kind of coming up with a game plan of some of the things that we needed to work on. And we've worked on a lot, and we've changed a lot. But God bless this company, they had not fired anybody in a really, really, really long time.
Which we find a lot of people don't like to fire, and sometimes they pride themselves and say, we're a company that doesn't fire because we stand by our people.
Yeah.
And so go ahead. So this is almost like you're listening to a story that happens, and we can insert whatever name of the company. This happens a lot. So go ahead and finish.
So we basically, I'd gone through a lot of things. We had made a lot of changes, but they still felt like we were hitting this stumbling block where the team is just not happy. And ultimately, that is what the owner really wanted, was the team to be happy. So I actually came in and spent 2.5 days with that company interviewing each individual person and trying to get to kind of the background to figure out what's going on here, what needs to change, and different things that we can do in order to get things moving ahead.
Like getting their perspective, which is what we do. When as coaches, what we do is come in and we gain perspective, not just from the owner, but from the team.
Right.
Because we're coaches for the company. So this is sort of like, now you have to come back after the break.
Yeah, we'll come back after the break and give you a little more details as to, some of the things that we found within this group, and it'll be interesting.
Could your business use some help? Call 614-306-7922 to schedule your coaching session. 614-306-7922. Now, here's more business talk.
Well, good afternoon. It's so great to be here. Michelle and I get to talking to you today.
Yes, Peg. It's so fun to be with you here again.
I know. Usually it's not you and me. It's usually like Pete and you or Pete and I.
That's right.
But Pete had to go to Thailand. Good for him.
Exactly.
So he missed the show today. But today we're talking about everyday business challenges, right? That businesses and managers face.
Sure.
And Michelle was, and Michelle, let's say we have somebody that's just tuning in now. This show is so fantastic that what we do is we go ahead and download them on our website.
Yep.
So we can go to takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
Right. And then there's a link or a tab called Business Talk. And if you click on that, you can see all of the shows that we've done within the last year posted on there so that you can listen and you can see the titles of the different shows. So
the topics,
something might interest you. You know, there's different things about marketing and about decisions for success and about all kinds of things. You know, different books that we've read or different seminars we've attended, different things we've experienced as coaches and learned from our own customers. So there's a lot of really great material on there.
Absolutely.
We definitely recommend that you check that out.
Yes, check that out. And today's topic was everyday business challenges.
Yes.
Okay, so before the break, we were talking about the Team Alignment Day, right? Which captures a few things. It was communication, making sure people were aligned, you said, and then making sure that they're listening to each other, respecting each other, educating each other. And understanding.
Yeah, and speaking the same language and all kind of following the same rules that they set up of how their own team is going to be handled, you know. So it's a really great day to really get your entire teams, you know, on the same page, working together. It's always amazing to see this big mountain of greatness that comes after a team alignment day where everybody is, you know, feeling a lot stronger together, feeling more open. You know, it's not a wave that you can ride solely just after a team alignment day. It does need to be followed up and continued and remembered because just like any habit, if we're not putting it into practice, it will fall away. We'll get back to our old habits of maybe disrespecting each other or not treating each other well if we don't have other strategies involved to help keep things going.
So as far as an everyday challenge, we talked a little bit about communication first.
Sure.
What other challenges, as you're going through this company and you were listening to the people, were there some other things that came up?
Yeah, a lot of it too, and we kind of briefly got into it, was the leadership team. Yes.
Okay.
We have, 3 very experienced people that have been running this company for a long time, and they certainly have done a great job because it's a great business, and they obviously have loyal team members because they do have so many people that have been there so long, and they have a strong customer base of people that have been there for a long time. But that doesn't mean that they're doing everything exactly right. None of us really are. There are always things that we can work on and grow. And, it kind of has become a divide in their world of the leadership team versus the rest of the team because of the leadership kind of making snap decisions, not giving them their voice. We tried to implement a suggestion box that was supposed to be anonymous, and apparently it wasn't being kept anonymous because they would track down the person that they were pretty sure wrote the note and kind of confront them.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. Okay, so if you're listening, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
Please don't do that.
Because one thing, and the 5 dysfunctions of a team really dives into this, the thing that everything is built on is trust.
Right.
And when you do that, you've just killed your trust. If you've killed your trust, you have nothing.
Absolutely.
Trust is so critical in your team. Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay, so now I'm so glad they brought you in to do this.
Yes.
Because this could have evolved into crazy, awful things. So you got to hear what was happening. So the leadership wasn't listening.
Yeah.
Wasn't communicating. And
they weren't protecting their, anonymous findings, but also it was kind of the same way that people that even didn't want to keep things anonymous were feeling like they were hitting the same wall when they would come to a leader with suggestions that they would get shut down very quickly as far as, the answer's just no, or they weren't, giving them the ability to, hear what they have to say or making them feel like they were greedy or, asking for something ridiculous or something like that. So, it's working with the leadership again on that listening, on that, how to be open and gain the trust of your team, and everything along those lines. Secondly, it definitely seemed like there was not a lot of follow through or accountability with things that were being implemented.
That's a big thing.
We've been working on a lot of new processes, a lot of new rules, a lot of ways to try to make things work more seamlessly, but it was not being worked in a way where it was necessarily fair. So this person was allowed to get away with not doing it, but other people were being
That's a
held
dangerous
accountable.
place. And,
Right.
I always say, Michelle, that think of your family, or if you're a manager, that your team is like a family, and like you're the parent, and it's up to you to hold everybody accountable because it's like they're siblings.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah.
and in order for it to be fair, you need to make it fair.
Right. Yeah. You can't play favorites amongst your kids, and you can't play
Right,
favorites amongst your team
right.
members. So it can't be that this person's allowed to come in 20 minutes late, but everybody else gets reprimanded, or it can't be, that
Or that they
this
can't come
person-
in 20 minutes late and nothing's said to them because
Right.
you're fearful of that difficult conversation.
Exactly.
You can't have that.
Right. Absolutely can't. Or new processes that we're starting that weren't really even given a chance to work because the team decided somewhere along the way to stop doing the new process,
Yikes.
and nobody stopped them from stopping. So we've also found, and this is an interesting thing to think about within your own company, if you're having that struggle between leaders being kind of separated, where there's this us versus them fight.
Oh, you mean leaders versus direct
the-
reports?
Yeah, the direct
Okay.
reports of the team
rest
members.
of the team.
Yeah,
Okay.
is where do you sit as a leader within where your team's action is? Because of the way that their building is laid out, the three top leaders are on the completely opposite end in a completely unused side of the building
Together
from the rest of the team. Just that physical separation, but also the fact that the leaders aren't in the midst of seeing what's
Yes.
happening on a day-to-day
Yes.
basis. They're not overhearing the conversations. They're not seeing the people, because of course everybody works really hard when your boss is standing right there, right?
Right.
I got my ducks in a row and I'm scrubbing the tables like nobody's business, or I'm doing whatever
Right.
it does to make myself look busy and make myself look good, or if I'm in front of a customer with my boss right there, I might turn up the shine a little bit. But people do tend to slack off a little bit more, or maybe change their personalities. It's kind of like in school when you would see the
teacher's
teacher's
there.
there, and the kids are raising their hands and being all prim and proper and perfect, and then as soon as the teacher steps out of the room, there's spitballs going everywhere, and
Wow.
people using language that they wouldn't use in front of a teenager. So even if you're not right there in the open all of the time, if you're within earshot, or you're you can kind of be somewhere, not that you want to be sneaky or
Right,
like hiding around the corner or different things, but if you're in a place where you can see what's going on, hear what's going on, kind of know the pulse of your company when you're not there, and catch those moments when things are happening.
Now,
that need
did
to be
you
held
have
accountable.
them start doing that then?
Well, we're working on that actually, because it does take a physical remodeling of their building to get this to happen. But I did try to encourage them in the meantime to get a stool and put it up to a table, somewhere in the area.
Perfect.
You might not be able to move your actual office, but you don't have to sit in that office all
Now,
the time.
it's funny you brought this up because I have two companies that same thing happened.
Yeah.
One, they ended up couldn't move their office, to your point, so
Yeah.
they took a stool. They did do that,
Yeah.
and it changed things. And then the
Yes.
second one was they had somebody that was like in a downstairs different area. They had the person move upstairs and be in the midst of it. They
Right.
actually physically moved the office.
Yeah.
Dramatic changes.
Absolutely.
Because we were able to deal with issues right away,
Yep.
not let them fester. It wasn't a week down the line.
Right.
And it's so as a leader, what I'm hearing you say is, as we've gone through a 360 and we see some issues, or even if we haven't, look at your space according to your team.
Right. Absolutely. How can you be more involved? How can you be more in the center of it, or, hearing what's going on? The other thing is, too, the team has gotten into a habit of tattling. So it's all tattletales. When they
Oh.
do come to the leaders, it's always with complaints, and it's always with negativity, and it's always telling on somebody else or some other group. The receptionists
Wow.
are doing this. The cleaning people are doing this. It's always kind of pointing fingers.
This
and
department's doing that.
Right,
Yes.
exactly. So, one thing that I, have tried to encourage the leadership is to say, I don't want to hear what they're doing. I want to hear what you're doing. Or
Right.
say, okay, you brought me this problem. I want 3 solutions by the end of the day of what you
Right.
think could help
Perfect.
to make this difference, or I want you to go grab 5 team members and, come up with a solution of what you think could happen, in order to make this change. Doesn't mean we're necessarily going to do those actual things, depending
Right.
on how good the answers are, but it might spark a new idea in the leadership. But again, it's just encouraging those people to come, be heard, but also be part of the solution.
I like what you said. It's a lot of times what we say is if we're going to complain about another department, we're pulling the department in.
Right.
I'm not going to be the person that you're complaining to, and we're going to have solutions.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. I love that. That is a really big thing that I see to help bring teams together.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're encouraging the leaders, too, to learn some more. It's time to read some leadership books, brush up on some new ideas, listen to podcasts and things of how to be a more effective leader as well.
So our topic today has been what are the top challenges in business owners. And so when we return, we talked a lot about communication. We've talked about leadership, and we do want to dive into culture a little bit, correct?
Yeah, the culture and the hiring and firing.
And the hiring and firing. When we return, we're going to touch upon hiring, firing, and culture in our last break. Absolutely. Thanks, Michelle.
To learn more about today's topic, call 614-306-7922. Now, back to more business talk.
Well, good afternoon, and it's Michelle and I here today having a great talk about the challenges that we face in business and with our teams. And if you just tuned in, know that you can find this program in its entirety at takeactionbusinesscoaching.com.
Yes.
And so part of our process when we're working with the team is to go in and interview to see, just sort of get a baseline of what's going on.
Right.
And you were talking a little bit about that. Then after you did that, we're taking a company as a case study right now of what we found.
Right.
And then before the break, we talked about communication, right?
Right, and leadership.
Yeah. And so now let's go into some other things that you found out, which were what was affecting the culture.
So, we talked about a little bit with the generations and the longevity of how people have been there, the accountability of who was being held accountable and who was not being held accountable.
Some people were getting away with stuff.
Right, exactly.
You can't do that. Stop it. Stop it. If you're letting people get away, that's not good.
Absolutely. So there were, a couple of standout people as we're going through and interviewing the entire staff, names that kept coming up that are maybe infecting the culture with their attitudes. Okay. So maybe not willing to learn, not willing to change, always arguing with people, always kind of messing up the system, or always getting away, or getting special treatment because we're trying to work around them because they have such a bad attitude.
I love all these descriptions. I want you to listen. As you are listening to this, listen to the descriptions that Michelle just said. Not willing to learn, not willing to change, argumentative, not working around the system. We have to make special issues for them because of who they are.
Right, because of who they are. They can't work with this person, or they can't be in this area, or they, don't have to do this policy because it's just going to cause an uproar. And then other people that maybe their training and skills weren't quite where they needed to be. So we kind of had to make a plan. I kind of tease people when I go in, like, don't think of us as the two Bobs in Office Space. If you've seen that movie, they're the consultants that come in basically to figure out who to fire. That's their whole job, is to where to make cuts. Our job isn't there to try to figure out where to make cuts. However, we aren't going to ignore a problem if we find one.
I love that.
A consistent issue is somebody that needs freed up for another opportunity, or somebody that
they need to be alumni.
Yes, they need to be an alumni, or they need to be realigned. In some cases, we did find maybe people's technical skills weren't as good. So, what trainings can we put them through? What efforts? But we might put them on a performance improvement plan. If you can't learn, if you can't make these changes, if you can't become as good as everybody else that's doing the same job, then this might not be the right place for you. That person with the bad attitude, though, is somebody that they've hit time and time and time and time again.
It's that dirty penny. Is that what you call it? A dirty penny that keeps showing up?
Right.
And you're like, oh my gosh. It's funny because, Michelle, when we start coaching an individual, I don't tell them this rule. But I'm telling you now, so hear this rule as we're coaching. If you bring up an individual by a third time, I say, guess how many times you've talked about this? Guess how much time this person has taken of our coaching?
Absolutely.
By the third time, it means either they're out or 3 strikes and they're out. We're going to do something about it.
Absolutely. You at very minimum have to put them on a performance improvement plan. But when you put them on a performance improvement plan, the end result has to be firing if they don't succeed, if they don't make good strides towards succeeding. They might not be 100%, but if they're 85, 90%, they made really good efforts and they continue to make good efforts, great. Let's, continue to work with them, continue to push them forward. But, In this one case, honestly, last Friday we had firing day where we did take down 2 people.
You did fire. So now we're into our hiring and firing to protect our culture kind of thing is what I'm hearing you say.
Absolutely.
So had they ever fired anyone?
They had not, at least in, I would say, 20, 30 years. A long time.
And this is not uncommon when we walk into a company. And what you've done is your entire team is exhausted, by the way, because these people, you're not allowed to have one of these on your team.
Right.
Not one. I had a team of 100.
Yep.
And they were on 2 different floors, 50-50.
Right.
One person was affecting those 50 people on that floor. And when they got rid of them, that company turned its culture around.
Right. Yeah.
So what happened? Okay, so how did this?
So actually, one of them was a surprise. I didn't get to interview her. She was out sick when I was there. And the other one, I honestly really liked her as a person. It was definitely not a personality situation. It was just the fact that over and over and over and over again, I continued to hear her name and her attitude and her issues. But also, it's the same person we've been talking about, like you said, the 3 strikes. Every time, every few months, her name would come up in a conversation. I'd be like, I really think it's time for her to go. And there would always be some saving grace,
they
some
always
reason
try to
that
save
they
her.
find a reason that, well, we're going to have a talk and we're going to give her one more chance.
Listeners, how often are you? I just hope you're listening to this and saying, "Oh my God, you're talking about me," because I need you to step up. It is so true, Michelle. I love this.
You have to take it. You have to do it. And it really does change the culture. So I haven't heard back from them yet. The other one, we actually caught her in a lie, purposefully going against the new process that we put forward. And then when they told me about it, I said, well, what kind of employee is she? Because they hadn't really brought her up to me. And they're like, well, she's always argumentative and she never likes change. She never likes this.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, oh, well, this is a surprise one, but she's got to go too.
But, Michelle, it's funny you brought up this again. I want you to look at your team because you're saying these words that I feel like we need to repeat. Looking at your team, are they open to new ideas?
Right.
Do they have a positive attitude? Are they willing to change?
Yes.
Are they willing to learn? Mm-hmm. And in all these cases where you're saying that these people had to go, the answer was no.
No, yeah.
And if it's no, do you want that person on your team?
Right. And they're the person tricking other people or talking to other people into not following as well. They're the ones feeding with the negative attitude. By all funny things, they bought sweatshirts for their entire team as a gift.
Oh, how nice.
Little hoodies, but they wanted them to wear them at work, and they can wear them at home too. But if they were going to wear a sweatshirt at work, they could only wear this one. So it's part of the uniform, but that way, people weren't ruining their own sweatshirts from home, but also had a consistent look. There was such a fight and battle over these sweatshirts because people felt that their freedoms were being taken away from them. Now, again, it came down to the communication, how we presented it and how it was informed. But it was some of these very particular people with the negative attitudes that immediately turned it from a gift, a nice thing, a fun adventure, down to they're stripping away our personal freedoms and how should I dare, have to have this. So
Holy
just
cow.
Funny situations. But, outside of this team, I unfortunately have had to have this conversation with multiple of the businesses that I've worked with. Usually there's 1 or 2 people somewhere along the way that we do need to make a cut. But every single time, the next week or 2 weeks, I hear, oh my gosh, it's such a breath of fresh air.
Why didn't I do this sooner?
Everybody is so happy. The whole team is working so much better together, and it just changes things in that culture immediately by getting rid of that negative attitude, by getting rid of that person that's bucking the system, by getting rid of all of that energy.
And I hear a lot from business owners or managers or presidents or division heads, and they go, but God, that person's so good. We need to put up with it because we're not going to get that skill other places.
Right.
I mean, you've heard that. What do you
Absolutely.
say to them when you hear that?
I say there's a lot of people out there, and you have a lot of really great people on your team that maybe haven't been given the opportunity to shine because that person was pushing them down or making them feel bad or not teaching them the skills that they needed to do. There's so many people out in the world that need a job and are willing to work hard for a job, and skills can be taught. Attitudes cannot be taught.
Correct. Absolutely.
Attitudes can be sometimes fixed under lots and lots and lots of work. But if a person's not willing to work and change and try to improve their attitude, they're just not,
Oh my.
When we come down to the hiring part of things, obviously we got to replace these people. And that's also a fear. Sometimes people are afraid to be understaffed. And time and time again, yes, it's something you really need to consider. Do you need to be looking for somebody before you lay this axe down or not, but also how much happier is the team going to be, and how willing are they to work hard or work overtime or work a little bit more in a short term in order to get rid of this negative force that they've all wanted gone for so long.
I agree.
And, I think the employers sometimes feel like people are going to think that they're mean or think that they're nasty or, things, but usually the other team members are so grateful.
They're respectful.
Yeah.
They respect the company and the owners because they've done that.
Right.
Now, Michelle, you have taken us through in this last hour, us doing an interview starting with a company, right?
Right.
To diagnose what is it we can do to help elevate, raise the bar of performance with the team, the leadership, and the owners.
Yeah.
What we covered was the leadership.
Right.
And what we covered at first actually was communication and dove into all the different strategies for that, which were like listening, team alignment,
understanding each other's personalities and the generations. Yep.
So it was education. And then the leadership, it was about educating yourself as a leader, being a better listener, better communicator, not holding accountable, correct?
Yeah.
Then we dove into how do you sustain a culture, which this is all culture.
Right.
But we talked about, are you allowing people to stay when they shouldn't stay? And how are you hiring the right people, correct?
Right, yeah.
So you've been listening to this. How is it what do you think should be the first step of our listener that says, I want to do this? What should they do? Like, okay, Michelle and Peg, I need this in my company. What should they do?
Well, they should definitely give us a call. That's step number one. And that number is 614-306-7922, 614-306-7922. You can also check us out on takeactionbusinesscoaching.com and learn more about us and our process. There's a contact form on there you can reach out to if you prefer to do it that way. But you should definitely reach out to us and let us just come in. We do a complimentary diagnostic of your company where we'll sit down with you and, any key members of your team and hear, where your wins are, where your struggles are, kind of get a better feel for your company and help you to see what are some different strategies and actions that we could work on within your team. And if this 360, thing sounds like something that would be helpful to your company to have us come in and do the interviews. That's certainly one way that we can start to work with your company. Another way is to hold the team alignment day where we come in and run a team alignment day for you with learning and
which could be a half a day or it could be a full day.
Yep.
Which is like we call half a day 3 hours, a full day 6.
Exactly.
Just so you know.
Yes. And depending what we find out in that diagnostic, we might make different suggestions. So a lot of times it might be moving towards that one-on-one coaching relationship where we help work on, particular people within your business or with your whole business, and meeting weekly and setting 90-day plans and holding you accountable moving forward. In others, it might be starting with, this 360, or it might be starting with a team alignment. Whatever, we find out that works best with your team to get the success that you need.
Well, with the start of the new year coming up on 2018, it sounds like now's the time.
Absolutely.
Now is the time. So, wow, you really have helped that company turn it around. And how long did that whole thing take?
Well, it took me about 2.5 days to get through the entire team. So they have quite a large team. But then, and then we've met with the leadership team about 3 or 4 times since then. And now we're moving forward into continuing our strategies to improve. So over the next few months, that's what we're going to be working on, is everything we've learned.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Peg.
This has been Business Talk, your business, your success. Sponsored by Take Action Business Coaching. The opinions expressed were those of the participants and may not be the views of the staff, advertisers, and owners of the station. Advice given was not intended to replace that of your business advisor. For more information about the topics discussed today, call 614-306-7922. 614-306-7922. Tune in next week at this time for more Business Talk, your business, your success.